Not every nightmare starts with noise. Some slip in silently before turning deadly. Innocent lives disappear, truth hides behind layers of deceit, and justice arrives far too late. These aren't just crimes, they're haunting turns no one saw coming. Each case unravels a terrifying puzzle, soaked in betrayal, obsession, and the unexpected. They had only just begun their life together. Sonam and Raja were newly married, setting off on a honeymoon in the lush, rain-soaked hills of Meghalaya. On May 20th, they arrived in Cherrapunji, known for its breathtaking waterfalls and serene trails. But on May 23rd, their dream trip took a horrifying turn. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon that day, Raja Raghuvani had been struck in the head with a sharp blade and thrown into a deep gorge near Waisaodong Falls. His body lay hidden for days, slowly decomposing in the thick underbrush. His wife, Sonam, vanished without a trace. When police found the rented scooter abandoned and their luggage left behind, the mystery deepened. Locals reported last seeing the couple with 3 unfamiliar men on a jungle path. Sonam's jewelry, a Mangalsutra, and a ring, had been left behind in the homestay, sparking early suspicion. Phone signals dropped. There were no cries for help, no known threats, no ransom demands, just silence. Search teams combed the forests and gorges. 10 days later, on June 2nd, they found him, broken, decaying, and far from where he was last seen. But even then, Sonam was nowhere to be found. That changed on June 9th, when she suddenly turned herself in at a roadside food stall in Uttar Pradesh. What followed was one of the darkest revelations in recent memory. Investigators pieced together a plan woven in deceit. Behind the scenes, Sonam had been in constant contact with Raj Kushwaha, a man she was, allegedly, involved with before and even after her wedding. Together, they had plotted Raja's end. Raj, along with 3 others, was flown into Meghalaya under the guise of tourists. On that fateful trek, they ambushed Raja, silenced him forever, and fled. The sickening part? It wasn't an impulsive act. It was calculated, rehearsed, and cold. A new groom had walked into a trap set by the one person he thought he could trust with his life. The case sent shockwaves through the country. It wasn't just about love gone wrong. It was about betrayal laced with cruelty, about how a celebration of union became a cover for something unspeakable. For Raja, the trip marked the beginning of married life. For Sonam, it was the final stage of a plan too sinister to imagine. It was just past 5 p.m. on a quiet June afternoon in Islamabad's G13 sector. Sana Yusf, a vibrant 17-year-old with a smile that lit up millions of screens, was at home celebrating her birthday. The air was festive, her mother and aunt nearby, laughter echoing off the walls. But, within minutes, the scene transformed into chaos. A man entered, calmly greeted the family, exchanged brief words with Sana, then pulled out a weapon and fired. 2 bullets tore through her chest. The celebrations died with her. She collapsed instantly. Her mother screamed, rushing to her side. Her aunt, in shock, thought a balloon had popped, but it was no accident. Sana was gone before she reached the hospital. Her young face, so full of life, now forever frozen in a photograph, would haunt a nation. What made the case even more disturbing was the identity of the man behind the attack. Umar Hayat, just 22 years old, from Faisalabad. Someone who had once admired her from a distance, and later turned into her worst nightmare. The news spread like wildfire. A promising student, a rising digital voice, cut down in her own home. But why? For hours, theories swirled. Was it a targeted attack? A robbery gone wrong? A jealous rival? Clues emerged slowly. Her mobile phone was missing. The killer had vanished. But Islamabad police moved fast. Within a day, they traced Umar's location and arrested him. The truth was more horrifying than imagined. Umar wasn't a stranger. He had followed her online, tried to contact her multiple times, and was turned away. He became obsessed. Rejection grew into resentment, and resentment exploded into violence. In his twisted logic, if he couldn't have her, no one should. Public outrage swept across the country. Social media flooded with tributes. Her face, once a source of joy, became a symbol of silenced ambition. Her hometown in Upper Chitral buried her under skies that once inspired her dreams. Islamabad courts began the long march toward justice. Her family, shattered but brave, stood in court and pointed to her killer. Sana's story isn't just about one young life lost. It's about a culture that allows obsession to grow unchecked, that blames the victim for saying no. A tragedy like this wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. And the echoes of those two shots may never fade. The silence inside the Carroll County home was broken by the sharp crack of gunfire. 2 lives were cut short. Kristen and James Brock were discovered lifeless in their bedroom, blood staining the sheets, their bodies cold before sunrise. What made it even more heart-wrenching was the small, trembling figure of a 6-year-old girl, standing there in shock, the first to witness the aftermath. The emergency call came shortly after. The voice on the other end? Calm, controlled. It was 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick, the couple's daughter. At first, it was seen as a tragedy, a home invaded, a family shattered. But as days passed, whispers began to stir. Sarah's grief played out online. She posted mournful TikToks, begging for prayers, speaking of pain. But it wasn't just the mourning, it was her obsession with attention. She reached out to true crime influencers, offering inside details, suggesting her family's case would make a great story. Not once, not twice. Dozens of messages as if she were promoting a show, not coping with loss. Detectives were puzzled. There were no signs of forced entry, no robbery, no struggle. And Sarah had given a speech at the funeral that, according to some, felt rehearsed, like a performance. Cold, calculated. Her online activity didn't match the image of a grieving daughter. Instead, it painted something far more sinister, something curated. Months passed without charges. Then in July, everything changed. Arrest warrants were filed. Sarah surrendered to authorities, now facing serious accusations, 2 counts of murder and multiple charges of assault. The investigators, along with federal agents, had uncovered what they described as a mountain of evidence: digital traces, behavioral patterns, and inconsistencies in her story. Still, her family remains divided. Her grandfather insists she's innocent, calling her arrest a mistake. Others, especially extended relatives, question how someone so close could be so emotionless, so detached. What began as a tragic loss turned into something far more disturbing. A teenager, accused of orchestrating a deadly plan, then allegedly shaping the narrative like a twisted influencer campaign. No confirmed motive, no weapon found. Just silence, suspicions, and a case still unraveling. In the gallery of unthinkable acts, this one etches itself into a darker corner, where masks fall, truth blurs, and the line between victim and villain disappears behind a screen.